Thank you. Hello. Hello, cousin.
Hey, good morning or
How are you?
evening, wherever you are on this great ball of fire.
Yes, evening for me, morning for you. I'm gonna go spray this poison perfume on me because the mosquitoes are up in here tonight. I had to go have Josiah get it for me. I sent Josiah up to his room to get me the poison perfume so I can fend off the mosquitoes.
So you don't smell as delectable to the mosquitoes as you naturally do?
Yeah. Exactly.
So I was just in South Carolina.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How's that?
It was good. It was good. I was in Hilton Head, but passed through the northern part of
Yeah.
the country, ground zero, as it were.
Yep. Ew, there's a really gross bug on my desk. I don't know what that is. Let's just bid him adieu. Hello, Jody.
Good
Do
morning.
you two know each other? Jody, Alicia?
Not really. We've connected after
Yeah, what
the
did we do?
Ouroboros experience.
Okay.
Phenomena. Yes, phenomena.
Yes. So great to see your face.
You too.
So you're in the States, right?
Yes. Yes, I'm in Michigan.
Oh, okay. Just north of me. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah. Straight.
Yeah.
Heart of America, baby.
Girl, I've been there. I have a really hard time staying in one spot for long here lately.
Mm-hmm.
So and my daughter was competitive travel volleyball, and so I was in Kansas City a few times for that.
Yeah.
And now she plays in college, so I travel for that too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh,
It's
man,
beautiful down there.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like it's a vibe. It's a vibe. We have a lot of entrepreneurial, it's the heart of America. So I feel like we have a job here to do.
Yeah.
To ripple
Yeah.
up.
I read a really funny, it was like a Twitter series, and it was a gentleman from the UK kind of saying what his perspective was of every state in the country.
Oh, really?
And so I'm in Michigan, and he goes, yeah, they build a lot of cars there. I don't understand why they don't get in and drive away.
You guys have good cherries.
We do. We do.
Yeah, you do. I love them.
Yeah, and then my son, who's in the Army, was at Fort Leonard Wood. So that was my first Missouri trip.
Oh, where is that? Do you know what?
In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know where that is.
Well, it's been a really interesting day today. I'm like being blocked in all the places from sharing this panel. At the moment, it's not letting me go live in the group. Like, this is crazy town, I tell you.
Yep, it is.
Let's see. Try this again. Carrie's here, so that's good. All right, I'm gonna try this again.
Good morning, ladies, and good evening, Leah.
Morning.
Good
Oh, it's
morning.
working. It's working, it's working. I sorted it out. Look at me
Just
go.
waiting for me.
All right. So we are officially live in the Facebook group. We are officially live on the webinar. Okay. Hello, hello, everyone.
Hey, hey.
Oh, it's been a day. Okay, so welcome to our second Women on Wealth panel. We did our first one Sunday, I guess. Yeah, Sunday. My Sunday morning. So I guess it was
Saturday night, yeah.
all y'all's Saturday night. And I thought that conversation went really well. Unfortunately, I've been like, why hasn't the video been put up yet? Why hasn't the video been put up yet? And the woman that works on my team that does all of my video content, she got married on 12th of July, and 2 days later, her husband was in a motorbike accident and has been unconscious since then, and he passed away this morning. So
Have me with text because I can't hear you.
that is why we do not have the first video up in the group yet. And I was like, what's going on? Like, it's not like her, like she hasn't put the video up yet. And I guess things started looking quite not good yesterday. And so I'm not seeing my staff every day out here because we're in lockdown. So they're all working from home instead of in the office. And then, yeah, so a little bit of sad news there, but we will get that replay up. I'll have another staff member do it tomorrow. But that conversation was really great. I thought I really enjoyed the conversation. You know, I was like, oh, there's no way we're going to talk for 2 hours. And sure enough, we did it.
Breezy.
8:08. It's 8:08 right now when Jack was born. Yeah, so we spoke for 2 hours and it was great. And I actually have been quite looking forward to this one because of the topic that we're going to be talking about tonight. And we are going to be discussing how women are programmed to fail and how competition and comparison and judgment is weaponized against us. And so if this is your first time joining us on one of these webinars and you're either catching the replay or you're here with us live, let us know that this is your first time if it's your first time. But these conversations are intended to be just a really a space where women can begin to talk about the controversial topics and subjects that they don't want us talking about. Because I really truly believe that in this new paradigm that we're shifting into, in order to fully step into embodying that wealth that we deserve, that we desire, and that is our birthright, we have to begin to shift some of these old constructs and these old identities that we've been holding on to. And we can't do that without having these types of, I believe, really candid conversations. And so on these panels, I'm going to be bringing together women that inspire me and women that have influenced me and women that I believe are willing to come on and speak and pull no punches. And so you will see a variety of women on these panels. We have a Facebook group that's dedicated to this topic, to
Series?
yeah.
The series?
What series? Yes, that's what I was looking for. I'm so tired, you guys. I was up till like 4 a.m. because I did that JV mastermind for the
Yeah,
book launch. Thank God for Carrie's here to facilitate. But so this series, we've got a couple of really incredible ones coming up next week, but my intention is to have this be ongoing. And so we've got a Facebook group that's dedicated to this. And so if you're here watching on the Zoom call, we'll drop you a link to the Facebook group, and you definitely want to join there because that you can watch all the replays there. And then the other thing that we're going to be doing there is putting all of the contact information for our panelists. So you can follow them, you can get into contact with them, you can find out more about what they're doing in the world. And it will also be a space where they will be able to share ongoing with you their thoughts, their views, their perspectives on topics and things that are happening in the world. My intention with that group is to really create a conversational space where women are speaking about women's issues. And so that is what that group is about. So please join us. Please invite your friends to that group as well. We don't want to spam anyone in, so make sure that they want to be there. But the other thing that you are going to want to do, if you've come across this in some way where you haven't actually registered, is you do want to register so that you can get updates on the upcoming panels. And the other reason that you want to do that is that I'm going to be and I'm hoping that my panelists as well, like we're going to be doing giveaways from time to time to people on the list that are registering for these events and that are showing up to these conversations, because we want to really reward you for investing your time and energy with us as well. So you definitely want to get added onto the list. So I think that's basically all I have to say. I'm Leah Steele, AKA The Wealth Witch. I think most of you know me. I'm an author and a podcaster and a mom and a wife and a holistic wealth strategist. And I'm here on this planet on a mission to help people deconstruct financial slavery consciousness, emancipate themselves from financial internment, and really step into what I believe is everyone's divine birthright to be wealthy in all areas of our lives, and to do that from a place of personal and economic sovereignty. So that's who I am. And that's why obviously Women on Wealth and these types of conversations, because it's what I'm passionate about. So last time, because this really is like, this isn't intended to be a Leah thing. Like that's not the intention here. It's really, the intention really is to come together in collaboration with other women, and have this be an us thing. So I'm just going to let the ladies actually introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about who they are. And then we'll dive into this conversation, which I already know is going to get interesting because the day has been completely crazy and bananas. So
In all the ways.
Yeah, let's just turn it over to my beautiful cousin.
Hey, everybody.
Baker. And yes, she is my actual cousin.
Actual cousin. I am what I call a human potential catalyst, specializing in your epigenetic genius. What does that mean? I take human design and unravel all of the complexities of the way that the system works and help you learn to step fully into your own sovereign decision-making process. I am not giving you anything that you don't already have. I'm really just helping you unwrap the layers and step fully into being sovereign in your decision-making. We are at a point in time where we know we can no longer trust the authorities. We can't trust other people telling us what's correct for us. And this is really, it's about empowering people to know what's correct for them, be certain in what's correct for them, and really move forward in that information. Really embody who you are as a unique energetic blueprint in this space and time right here and right now.
And if you didn't pick up on the holistic wealth strategist, human potential catalyst. We're obviously related.
So good.
Okay. Jody, let's go to you.
I feel like we're all related because we're all essentially doing the same things. We just come with our own unique blueprint. So I'm Jody Rodenbaugh, aka Love Liberator, and I'm a mom first and foremost. I am a wife. I am a widow. I am a previous teacher, and I'm here to help people come into their truth and release all that isn't theirs and trust themselves more than anyone else in the whole wide world to have the experience that they're here to have.
Amazing. And there is Carrie.
I'm here. My children are here, but I'm here too. I'm like,
Classes
she's
in
asking me
session.
questions, right? I'm like the older ones now. I'm like, guys, get it together. But I am Carrie Yossi. I'm an intuitive strategist and mindset advisor, as well as one of the very first wealth alchemy practitioners and emotional resonance clearing practitioners in the world. So that's very, very exciting. And you know, at the end of the day, I think what we're all trying to do, among other things, with right personal responsibility and self-mastery is to know ourselves, love ourselves, and trust ourselves. And that really comes into alignment, I feel, with today's conversation, right? Because we have, and we're going to certainly unpack and unfold this idea of weaponizing, right? This judgment within ourselves and therefore within each other, and how we treat other women. There is a part of that that connects to how we think and feel and believe and treat ourselves. And so I'm really, really excited to dive in with all of you this morning. Do want to say this is a little exciting. You know, Alicia's celebrating her birthday week. So the fact that she was able to get it together, pull it together to come on this was a real, but this is the thing, we celebrate each other, right? Like, and this is what's interesting, because in another place and space and time, right, it could have been really easy to be like, dang, Alicia, like you look like you had a night, right? Or just really like attack each other. But the point is, no, we get to celebrate each other, because we do get to live life, and we do get to have fun, and we get to celebrate each of our experiences instead of tear down. Oh my gosh, if you're having too much fun, or if you're out actually living your life and I'm miserable, I need to come for you. And that's a lot of what I'm finding with the weaponizing, right? Is like, we're taught to hate ourselves so that we can then go judge and tear down each other. And I'm wondering if, you know, what are some of your earliest memories of experiencing this, whether it was you being attacked or you kind of on that attack? You know, when do you remember this happening?
So I want to chime in. Previous teacher, right? And I was teaching 4th grade at one point in my life. And I feel like it begins there. It begins on the playground. It begins in 3rd and 4th grade. And this thing happens with girls where, like, literally they tell each other, let's not talk to Carrie today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how she handles it. Let's see what she does. I mean, there are some times where I have seen girls have notebooks, like a club, and then rules like, let's keep Carrie out.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting in as a teacher in 4th grade, and I was like, I will not have any girls. This is previous to children. I will not have any girls. So guess what I have? I have 3 of my own and 2 bonus daughters. But it really does, I feel like, begin there. But even further back, I feel like for me, it began with my own mother in competition of me. And she was a young mother. She was 20 years old when she had me. And, you know, not to get into her jam, her story, but I remember specifically there times where, like, I would do a cartwheel and she would do it better. And it's these little bitty things that we accidentally do that underlying is this thread of competition that we have to one up each other in order to get to the top of the bucket. so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Alicia, how about you? Like, experience.
There are so many, and mine have lots of intersections, right? Mine have intersections that include race, but I would say if I wasn't, you know, I can't even divorce those two things, right? But I would say one of the things that really stands out was being in fifth grade. So fourth grade, fifth grade, right around that age. And being at school, and there was a boy that liked me. Oh, I'm cute, I'm fabulous, I get it. But he was not brown. And it was clearly an unacceptable, like I remember running home from the school bus from girls who wanted to fight with me because somebody liked me that didn't look like me. And then we had, and I lived, it was at that point in my life very rural. And there ended up being another little brown boy that came to school and was in our class. And then everyone wanted to make him, we ended up hating each other. And I think we hated each other more because of the outside pressure of people decided that because we looked like we went together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can't
And
be
so
liked.
Because of that. How, and Leah, I mean, I certainly want to hear your answer on this question too in a second, but, you know, Alicia, because you did, you know, bring up race right away, which is important because it's a part of who you are. Like it's a part of every experience that you have, right? Like just like me not being brown is a part of every experience I have, right? So it's going to affect everything. Did you feel like girls constantly and always treated you different or interacted with you different because of your race, in addition to like this girl on girl like crime activity that we, you know, support so much?
Yeah, I think there are two ways to look at this.
Yeah.
And as you can see, when you look at my cousin and myself, we come from a very, very diverse family. So I can't separate those experiences that I had with white women from the same experiences I had with Black women. Right. And then you get into some really specific intercultural places where, you know, skin tone or something we could even, you know, call a caste system then comes into play with that. And, you know, oh, they don't want to talk to me because they think that I think that I'm cute because my skin is lighter or I have good hair, or like all of these things interplay in the way that both Black women and white women, girls at that point in time, let's say, interacted with me. It was very much, so for me, there's no way to separate that. It's tinged with it always, always.
Do you find yourself, not now, right? But do you find yourself in those moments, like, because everyone else was giving you so much judgment for so many things on so many layers, did you find yourself also questioning and judging yourself? Or do you feel like you've always had just like that inner confidence and that inner knowing to go ahead.
You know, the thing that popped to mind as you asked me that, and this was middle school, you know, it was one of those days, and all of us here are parents and understand this scenario. I went to school and there was something I forgot, and it was something I had to have that day. Like it was one of those things where, and my mother was not one to tolerate foolishness, but I called in tears, like, I need you to bring this permission slip to school or my life is going to end today. And she did. And she brought it in. I saw her, met her at the office. She went home, and a little later that morning, somebody came up to me and said, I didn't know you were adopted. I'm not adopted. Well, who was the lady who came to school? That was my mother. Well, then you're adopted. No, I'm not. Well, you have to be because white people can't have Black babies. And I went through, seriously, it had to be a good 6 months of like a doggedly pestering my mother to admit that she had adopted me. Like I couldn't believe, like it messed with me to that point. Like I was like, if you just admit it, it's gonna be fine, you know, we'll be okay, we'll get past. Just, you know, the kind of questioning who I was.
Mhm. And to me, it's like the innocence of children. It's like, this is children natural discovery of trying to figure out things that they don't understand, like they cannot compute. This is the box that I was in. Now I see this box. I'm trying to bridge the two. I can't compute. What do you mean? What do you mean that this is your mother? From that perspective.
Right.
It does begin like that innocence of children, just natural curiosity and questioning.
And it all came from the outside because it certainly didn't come from inside of the family. Right.
And I want to push on that a little bit because I'm curious what your take is on, you know, all of us for this, because I do believe that children are very innocent, right? I do believe that children are very pure-hearted. I also believe that children, whether it's pure or distorted unintentionally, repeat, right, the patterns that they're taught.
Yep.
So I don't personally believe that it's necessarily always, if ever, an innocent questioning of trying to figure things out, as much as, oh, wait a second, somewhere in my subconscious, right, somewhere I was taught, these are the rules of engagement, right? These are the rules of expectation. These are the rules of natural birth family, right? And so to be like, oh, that can't be your mom, although it might have been an innocent question, that came from somewhere, right? That perpetuated from some other programming and conditioning that they may or may not be aware of, but that they're perpetuating unintentionally, right? And that's a huge part of this, because if we're spending our time teaching other, you know, teaching our children in their subconscious to have these thought processes and these questions and these, you know, beliefs, and that's where they're spending their time and energy questioning things, we're only continuing to weaponize, right, the differences between us. And we're only continuing to perpetuate this cycle of me, not you, right? Or you, not me. And that's never going to really get us to that place where we can create, you know, that massive change and we can move into this new paradigm. And so, Leah, you've been quiet and listening through all of this. So I'm curious. I know you have a lot to say on this. So dive in, please, while I go yell at these children a moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, there wasn't a, oh, 4th grade or 5th grade or 6th grade. I never fit in anywhere. I grew up in Southern Idaho and Utah, and I, you know, and largely in my younger years, again, in rural areas in Idaho, I was the only brown kid there. And so I never fit in. And then we moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, and I was a brown non-Mormon kid. And you know, and that has been the story of my life. Like that it has, and on top of that, I was pretty. And, you know, I mean, I think that I knew the race thing was going to come up tonight because you know, there's just like, it's part of why I invited Alicia, honestly, because I felt like we needed a little more diversity in this topic. But and yeah, I mean, it's interesting when Alicia was talking about also like the sort of inter-race dynamics, because we certainly have the whole gamut of it in our family line. And that's, you know, that's a different panel, I think, for a different time. But we could do a whole panel on just our family, in fact. But I think that, you know, there also is, I mean, every person on this panel, like, let's just be honest about this. it's being beautiful is a blessing and it's a curse. And an old friend of mine said that to me one time. And it was probably the first time I actually ever fully felt, was in my early 20s. And he, it was Jamie Foxx actually. So interestingly enough, was like, I've got your number. And I'm like, what? He's like, you're carrying this giant chip on your shoulder. And I'm like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? And he's like, oh, I know. He's like, being beautiful, it's a blessing and it's a curse. And that was the state of me growing up. And when and even in moving to New York, and, you know, I was too brown for the white people and too white for the Black people and too pretty for everybody, basically. And as a result of that, was of the combination of those things, you know, was the kid that all through elementary school didn't have friends, maybe had one friend, right? Read at recess, that was my reality growing up. And it wasn't until high school, when different became attractive to the boys, that my friendship dynamics changed. But my freshman year in high school, I got jumped by a group of Polynesian girls in the hall at school because a guy liked me, even though I was dating somebody, right? So that's it. The competition, the comparison, the judgment has been a part of my life from the time, I don't remember a time when it wasn't that I haven't had that experience. And as a result of that, growing up, I had very few female friends, almost all male friends. And it wasn't until really, I'd say I turned 40 that I started really making good, what I would say are good female friends and friendships that are empowering, and that are of women that aren't in competition with me, that aren't trying to sabotage me, that aren't stabbing me behind my back. And in saying that, I've been having experiences the last few weeks of women in the online space doing that to me. So it's just something that is so alive. And it's like, you know, it's so fucked. Like, we don't want each other to be successful. You can't be prettier than me. You can't be more successful than me. You can't be more abundant than me. You can't, and we didn't come this way. Mm-hmm. We've been programmed to be this way. Mm-hmm. And it's very intentional. Why? It is because together we are so strong, and separated we are disempowered. Yep. And so there have been generations and generations and generations and generations that have perpetuated this separation between women, because it serves the patriarchy, it serves the global financial agenda, it serves it serves slavery, honestly.
I think what you said.
What's the first thing they did in slavery? Took the mothers away from their children, right?
I think the first thing you said that really jumps out to me was, you know, the Polynesian girls jumping you because a boy liked you. There is so much competition with women around relationships with men. Well, and this is, you know, a cisnormative perspective, but there's so much competition. We don't talk about or share the love and joy we may have, because somebody else is going to, I know mine is going to, and I'm trying not to. So thank you. But it's that whole thing of, you know, if you're picked, or they want, like, there's this, why?
Survival. It's like primal. Complete.
You know, I think it's interesting, you know, because but that was not the way of our ancestors, right? Like, if you go back to our very tribal nature, now, yes, I mean, have we always had dynamics of, did the most beautiful woman in the tribe get the most handsome warrior? Well, likely, right? But maybe not, because maybe her dad was the chief and she got given to whoever.
Another chief
right?
to make a
Right, exactly. So, but I think again, it's like, when it comes to men, obviously, when it comes to men and women, there are some, there is that piece of we are drawn to we're drawn to people who we're going to make strong, healthy, beautiful
Yes.
children. Like that is in our genetic makeup. And we
Absolutely.
can't deny that, right? So women who perceive that they are at a aesthetic disadvantage, I guess, I don't really know how to say it. They perceive that they're
Deficit
ugly
almost,
or
yeah.
they're not as attractive, right? Maybe at some level have always felt threatened. But the reality of our existence is we're not that. Like, as women, we came together, we lived in community together, we helped each other, we, went into the tent together when our moons came. And
Yep.
like, there were big, like, we were very supportive of each other. I'm sure that there were some of these types of dynamics, but not what we experience today.
Right. Right. I mean, not attractive to whom though? I think that's the other piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not attractive to whom? Because I am plush and loved just the way that I am, right? And that's okay. Why are we not celebrating what is beautiful about each one of us instead of saying, this is what beauty is and we all need to be that? Instead of me going, oh my God, Jody, let me just tell you, your eyes are magnificent, right? Carrot girl, those lips. Why can't we celebrate the beauty that we see in everyone instead of honing in on a standard and then everyone's trying to get to that?
Yeah, we can't celebrate it because we don't see it in ourselves. The thing is that, like, Alicia, thank you for bringing this up, because I haven't thought about something, literally have not thought about this since you were talking about race, but I didn't have friends in elementary either. I didn't have friends until high school. And I went to private schools, and it was like maybe 10 people in my class. And I remember myself and how much I had hardened my heart around middle school, around that 4th, 5th, 6th grade kind of timeline. And I remember, like, every little time there was some rejection or some abandonment or some humiliation or some sort of injustice, that little by little, I would just like tie these knots around my heart until I became the ice queen. And I remember this one girl that I went to class with, and I had so much experience with the brown girls, that with white teachers who, it was just no child should ever have been talked to or done with. And as a child watching, you can't do anything about it. And each time, like, my heart would harden up. I felt like, okay, what do we do with this energy? Okay, it's time to fight. And I remember this period where one girl in particular, it was like we were in competition for who could be the toughest, who could have the hardest heart, when that was completely against who I was. The beauty of me was not like, well, maybe it was this, but the beauty of me and the beauty of all of us is our heart. And so when we close it off to one thing, which is us, when we close it off to, I'm not good enough, I've got to fight for it, we're hardening ourselves and we're closing it off. And now we can't see the beauty in others. We begin to take off those layers. We begin to see, like, just the beauty of, like, radiating. I don't know where I would be currently today without the sisterhood that I have currently. I don't know.
Mhm.
And I think that it
Mhm.
does start to happen around the age of 40, where we start to come into, and I'm going to be 50 here in a couple of months, and it's even stronger now. It's like we got to rise in that womanhood, and it is like taking off these layers of things that we've used to protect ourselves, these things that we have literally imprisoned ourselves with, put ourselves in the boxes.
Mhm. And that's the interesting thing, right? I mean, you said a lot of really interesting things, but we try to protect ourselves to keep ourselves safe so we can focus on our own survival, so we can focus on our own growth, so we can focus on getting all the things that we want to do, right? But in doing that, we actually stop ourselves, right? This is where this weaponizing piece of this comes in. This is where the wealth piece of it comes in, where we think, okay, I'm going to stick to myself and I'm going to judge all these other chicks and I'm going to like have this comparisonitis. But wait a second, that's actually not me like feeling bad about them. It's me feeling bad about myself because I never measure up for this reason or that reason or whatever, and are directly negatively impacting our own experiences, our own space for wealth, our own opportunities to grow and to learn more about ourselves and step into that next level of self mastery. So it's this really ass backwards way of, oh, I'm going to protect myself to get ahead. But that protection is actually what's keeping us stuck behind, you know? And I hear what you're saying about, like, yeah, we can't see the beauty in somebody else because we don't see the beauty in ourselves, right? And that's very, very valid. And that's a very true point, 100%, because we've been taught to hate ourselves. We've not been taught to love ourselves. We've not been taught to connect into that divine piece of ourselves that has all the answers and has all of the wisdom, right? And at the same time, what Alicia was saying with like, okay, there's this one standard, right? This is there's one pretty version and that's it. And if you don't meet that standard, there's always something wrong with you. You're either too lazy, right? Because you're too fat, right? Or you're too dumb because you can't, make that money, or you're too this, right? Because you didn't get the man or whatever it is. And it is a full blown, not only distraction, not only obsession, but an addiction to looking at
and
all.
Nobody, just in case people are wondering, nobody is that. Nobody is the
Right.
ideal.
Exactly.
Even the people
Exactly.
they put in the
We're fighting-
magazine saying they're the ideal aren't the ideal.
Right. And then
Exactly.
and what we're fighting for is, or what we're fighting over
Fake.
is, she's closer to that than I am in whatever way. Right?
Exactly.
It's like nobody's that. But then we perceive that somebody else is closer to that version of that thing that we desire to be than we are. And so now we're comparing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
we're all chasing the pipe dream. Every single one of us.
we're all losing. Exactly. We're all losing. And that's why it's like this addiction. And that's why, like, when you were talking, when you're talking about this panel series and decided to use the word weaponizing, and it's like, like that is so like offensive. And it's like, good, it should be. Because look at what we're doing. Look at how much time and money and energy and effort and low self-worth and low self-esteem and distraction is to compare ourselves and to judge ourselves to a false image that doesn't exist, and therefore putting us in competition with other women. Because what would happen if we took even a fraction, right? Genuinely, a fraction of that time and that effort and that energy and that money and turned it towards these types of conversations, turned it towards these types of relationships? What the fuck would happen then?
I think about how we continue to perpetuate this. The thing that just popped into my mind, and you've all probably seen it somewhere, because it's a meme and it's like, well, if you don't have anything nice to say, come sit next to me. And we laugh at it like it's funny, like-minded, and we're going to sit here and judge. It perpetuates that whole environment of, we're close enough alike, let's sit and judge everyone else. My personal standard is, see, if you're going to come to me and you're going to be talking about her, I am certain, sis, when you are not with me, you are talking about me to somebody else. I'm not playing. I can't play that game anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is what happens when we focus on the problem and only talk about the problem and shine a light on the problem. Like, I'm literally coming into an awareness right now that I have never came into. And that is that back in that elementary scenario that I was in, and that teacher that was just nasty and ignorant caused me to see the genius inside of all the children that were around me, which is why I became a teacher in the first place. And why I chose to teach in the inner city as opposed to anywhere that I could teach. Because there is a freaking genius inside of every single person. But yet when we focus on these things, just the things, we miss the whole fucking point. We miss the whole point. It's like, when I was teaching these children, and I would, before No Child Left Behind, which I don't know if you guys even remember what that was, but No Child Left Behind came around, and teachers were stripped of their rights to use their intuition, to literally tap into each child for what each child needs and bring out the genius inside of them. And so now we started creating these robots, which was not at all what I was here to create. So that's when I started to break away from the system. But when I would see these children, they would come in already. We come in with our genius. We come in with the beauty. And if nobody is there to pull that out of you, to help you see that, you fall back into the epigenetic system. You fall back into the programming. And so when I would look at these kids and I would have to teach them certain things and they weren't computing, it's because it's not their freaking business to compute the things that we want them to compute. They're not here for that. So we have to go in and find out what that is, which is what you do beautifully with human design, Alicia. Well, what we all do, but get in there and unlock that key for them to help them see who they really are. So there is no fucking competition. It doesn't exist.
I think the other piece that just sort of came to me is in this, the fact of the matter is, we are not taught in any way, shape, or form how to have good relationships with people. I'm not talking about intimate relationships.
Mhm.
We have this perspective that we can all get along and we're all going to be friends, and it's all like, that is not at all how life works. You're not going to, for whatever reason, even if you took all of the biases out, we're not going to like and resonate with everyone we ever meet. It's okay. It's okay. It's actually how it's designed to work. Sometimes we rub up against people for our own benefit and growth. That discomfort can be for us. How we respond to it and how we treat those people is what really matters. But we don't do anything around educating people in general. We can, starting in school, starting with kids, around how to have meaningful interactions with people, even if you don't really like them. They don't have to, everyone's not going to be your friend. It's not how the world's going to work. But we don't have a skill set. And so in human design, what we talk about is being correct, right? Everyone has to be correct for themselves. And some people resonate and other people don't, and learning to figure that out. But the next step is, if you don't resonate with somebody, don't go away mad, just go away, right? This isn't, you don't have to be backstabbing. You don't have to, if somebody's not for you, they're not for you. That's okay. But we have this preconceived notion or this belief or this whatever that, we're supposed to get along with everybody. Everybody's supposed to be catering to how we want to feel about them, right? It's absolutely insane that we don't have a process by which we teach people how to be in relationship with other people.
Well, I teach that.
Right.
Well, and I think that we did teach that. I mean, like, this is where like the topic of this webinar comes in, right? Because I truly believe that we have been programmed to fail.
Yeah.
No Child Left Behind wasn't a mistake. It wasn't somebody's best laid plans. It was somebody's most fucked up laid plan that was designed and intended to create exactly what it created, which was generations of indoctrinated children that are regurgitating information and following a system that's treating them as a compliant commodity. Like,
Exactly.
all of this stuff is designed to have us showing up as our best robotic money making for the government selves. Like, that's the point of all of this. And so I think that, you know, everything, like, and here's where the catch is, right? Because as spiritual people, we want to be like, unity consciousness and love and light, and let's all be one. But the reality is that we're living in a fucking, like, the most dualistic plane of reality that there is. And it's the reason that we're here. We're actually here to experience the duality. We're actually here to experience the diversity. If it wasn't for the duality and the separation, we wouldn't be able to experience the diversity. And it's one of the most beautiful things about human life. But it has been weaponized and used against us. And so now, instead of existing in this, you know, what could be harmony, right, of different notes living in harmony together, instead, like, nothing's meshing and everyone's fighting for airtime and everyone's pointing out the separations. And so you know, this is the part for me that I'm like, it's not that we never knew how to do this. It's how do we create the remembrance?
Yeah, exactly.
How do we get back to a time when we were like, oh, well, I don't get along with Alicia, and, you know, she lives 2 teepees over from me, and that's cool. Like, you know what I mean? I don't need to like her, but if she needs help with her baby, I'm gonna help her.
Right.
Because that's what we do. But I don't have to like her. I don't have to be best friends with her. We don't have to sit by the fire and kumbaya every night. Like, you know what I mean?
But that's
like,
an interesting point, though. That's a really interesting point, because I feel like what I'm hearing you say and what it's reminding me of is, like, as we have risen as the collective in wealth, right, and in commodity, there has been more and more separation. The more separation, the more judgment has been celebrated and even expected, right? Like, if we were 2 teepees down and you and I just weren't vibing, we still got to survive, right? Like, we still got to be, you know, there's a Southern tribe, or there's this, or there's the babies, or we got to eat, like, kind of important shit, right? Like, we got to figure it out. Now we've become so commercialized, so commodity. Everything is separate, right? Everything is, this is mine, mine, mine. This is yours, yours, yours. Which one is better? Which one is worse? There's been such isolation that the judgment part of it, I think, has been an ancillary and intentionally, right, created part of that isolation and part of that separation. Because if we did still have that type of community, if we did still have that dependence, interdependence on each other, I do think we would be in a place, in a space, to be able to see, hey, you know what, we're different, but we're really not that different, right? Or, hey, we're different, but it's safe and okay to be different, right? Not having media sensationalize, oh, I don't know, the state of Florida is so horrible, right? The state of horrible, like, Florida is going to hell or whatever because they're doing this and they're doing this and what, I don't even fucking know, right? But, like, I don't know.
And then
that
everyone
I'm
in
not
Florida
there.
being like, no, we're amazing. The rest of the country is going to
You
hell in a
suck.
handbasket.
Meanwhile,
right.
everybody else is wanting to flee to
That's
Florida.
a different panel.
Right.
Well, so the other thing that this reminds me of, because I recently did a thing, and that's not what this is about, but it was really talking about intimacy. And there was a lot of conversations. One of the topics that came up, though, was the red tent, right? When women would be in community, be in sync, you know, and spend time together, sharing stories, bonding in sisterhood, supporting one another through all of the ways that our bodies work, right? One of the things, and I'll just say this, like, one of the things for me that's hard in my life right now is I no longer have my mother. And I have so many questions about what's going on with my body.
Mm.
So I don't have my mother, her sister's also gone. Like there's no woman relative for me who genetically close enough would probably have gone through changes very similar to what I'm experiencing. I'm like, there's literally, other than my doctor, there's nobody for me to ask, to know what to anticipate, to dig into this. Like there was a time though, when all of the women came together. That was a shared experience, shared learning, shared information. Childbirth was a shared process, right? It was women coming together, so all ages, everyone in the community shared in these processes, but it was also a time of bonding, a time of conversation, a time of creating the symbiotic unity that needs to exist for us to all thrive and flourish.
And it does take intimacy. Into me, I see. And when we have put these walls and these barriers and tied these knots on our hearts, we lose sight of that intimacy. And now it becomes the competition. And now it becomes this, I don't know, is it codependency? It's like this thread of not allowing people to live and let live too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I've really been talking about I'm trying to stay in the space of and.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
This is what I believe, and it's okay if you believe something differently.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't
That
have
requires,
to be offended because you believe something different than I do. Like I don't have to feel like my belief system is being challenged simply because you believe something different than I believe. Like what that reaction there is like, and again, I absolutely believe is programmed because it creates the divisiveness, it creates the emotional volatility, it creates the emotional trigger. And when we are emotionally volatile and we are emotionally charged, we are easier to control and manipulate. So everything that we're seeing happening, everything that happens in the world, and including the separation of women from each other, is designed to keep us in emotionally charged and volatile states because we're easier to control and manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
They very, very successfully turned us against each other during the Inquisition.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't, it only takes a certain number of people being executed to get people to start turning on their neighbors, right? And that wound, I don't know that we can heal it, is the thing that's interesting about this conversation. It's like, have we created, certainly not in our current level and state of consciousness, I don't think. The rift and the divide that was created, the mistrust that was created from that, I don't know that we ever come back from. And this is that piece that, I don't know, I wrote this super geeky sciencey post yesterday. I don't know if any of you guys read it. I think nobody read it. I think everyone's read like 2 paragraphs of it. The most boring.
I haven't read it yet.
I was talking about we can sit, I think we sit here and we say that and we're all like, oh yeah, like our ancestors and the Spanish Inquisition and, the burning of the women. It wasn't just women, by the way, like men, women, and children, but the burning of the women and, and then we just go like, yeah, but that happened so long ago. Same thing with slavery, right? We go, yeah, that happened so long ago. We forget though, that it all exists inside of us. It all still exists. It's all still there.
And it can be measured in the proteins that surround our DNA. They can measure it.
Yes.
Yeah, I read that. I read the whole thing, but I've also studied that, which is why I talk about being, what I do is epigenetic. It really is. Like, I don't know, my first round of Ouroboros, Leo, when we discovered that we couldn't clear Alicia when other clears were going on in the same week, like, because we share a family line, that energy
that was super interesting. I went to do Alicia's generational clear. Yeah, kicked my ass. But because we're actually, so we are quite, we're not hugely removed, but I can never even remember it. My grandfather,
Well, see, it gets weird because of where my mom sits on the family tree as well. Because my grandfather had kids. He was the 13th or 14th son, and then he had his kids really late. So my mom appears younger, but she's really a generation up anyway. Yeah, we share some great grandparents
also. But
the thing that
but we're not direct. So we are directed. We are connected through my paternal line
and my maternal line.
Her maternal line, and so I just was like, because of the separation, I was just like, oh, it's not going to be that big of a deal, right? To like go into these lines, and then it's like, yeah, no, and.
But what else happened for me? Because it's not like I didn't know who I was. Because knowing who you are and then having like realizations are different things. So we do this clear and we do this work, and she's going back and all of a sudden, literally, I'm plotting out my mother's line. So my maternal line. That's a long line of European farm women. Like, and I'm not saying it to be funny. I'm saying that as a Black woman in America, I had not realized the trauma that I needed to work through that had nothing to do with this and everything to do with some famine and World War I and World War II and Napoleon. And like all of a sudden, I found myself in a different place of dealing with what trauma was running through me because I had failed to recognize until that point. So that's been 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Ish, right?
Yeah.
But until that point, hadn't realized that part of my trauma, I'm dealing with Black stuff all the time. That's upfront and that's present. And I know that that's there.
Mm-hmm.
But finding myself in this place of going, oh, wait, she cleared me, knocked me on my ass. And then I had to, but it gave, well, that too. But it was also a recognition, right? Because we sit back and we assume we know some things until we start doing the work that we all do.
Right.
That we all do. And then we recognize we don't even know half of what we think we know.
Right.
And it's not like I didn't know that my grandmother was born in another country and moved here. And my mother was the first generation born here in that part of the family that, hey, I'm only a second generation American, part of my family, right? Like, it's not that I didn't know that, but until you start unraveling these layers, right, of how you recognize the trauma you're carrying, and we are all carrying trauma.
Right.
Well, the truth is, Alicia, is that the easiest way to keep you emotionally charged is to keep activating the race card.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So the
easiest way out.
You're never even going to get to that because the other thing is in your face all the time. Mm-hmm. You're constantly being poked there. Mm-hmm. Look at this, look at this, look at this, deal with this, deal with this, deal with this, deal with this. As a means of division, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we're all walking around looking at whatever the major, most upfront, in our face trauma is that we can most easily be activated into this charged emotional state. Like the design of this program, they're not stupid. Like this really was laid out very, very well over generations and generations and generations, right? It's division, but it's not, they're not going after the fruit at the top of the tree. It's like, why? Hit the path of least resistance.
Low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, and then you can't break free from the patterns, no matter how much work you do on that side of the family, because there's this whole other side of shit that you haven't even looked at or addressed. And so as a result of that, you're gonna stay stuck and stagnant in that emotional pathology and conditioning because you don't even think to look at it. which is
Right.
why, that's one of the reasons why I feel like the generational clear is so powerful, because we literally look at 8 branches of the family tree. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. We go 20 generations back. I mean, sure, some of us have shit more than 20 generations back, but I feel like 20 is a good place to start.
Yeah, we can really get into some patterning there.
Yeah. And again, looking at that, looking at considering Europe, right? World War I, World War II,
Right.
going back even further, and what it took for women to survive then, right?
Mhm.
What did it take?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because those are also things that exist for all of us.
Well, and I think that, the Great Depression is a really good, more recent example of this,
Yep.
right? Where extreme money trauma experienced by our recent ancestors across the
Yep.
planet,
Mhm.
right? But the other thing that was happening during that time is that nobody had enough. And so what did you do?
Yeah.
Well, you isolated yourself, you hoarded, like, how many of us have grandmothers that keep all the sugar packets, and that, you know what I mean? Like that have these patterns of behaviors of scarcity and lack mentality. But the Great Depression created first of all, it was a massive money trauma hit, which was very intentional, right?
Mhm.
The governments made money because of the wars, and the people were in poverty, so they were emotionally charged and easy to control and manipulate and move into socialist programs, essentially. Like, there was a lot of manipulation happening during that time, as there always is during war. But the other thing that it did was, we went from this time of, like, really the 1900s into 1920s, quite a social, like, we were very social people, like,
Yeah.
and there was lots of, like, family interaction, and we went from that to, like, now nobody has anything, and we're hoarding what we have, and we don't want anyone to know what we have, because people are literally trying to survive. And so you don't talk about what you have, you don't show what you have, and you basically hide from everyone to protect yourself, to protect yourself. So here we start to isolate, right? And here, even our friendships with women probably stressed even more, because now you're operating in lack, scarcity, and fear. And how am I going to feed my children?
Mhm.
You don't want to feel
And how am
responsible
I
for anybody else that maybe has less than me, but I also,
Exactly. It's like, how am I going to feed my children? But then also how much guilt we feel about our best friend who can't feed her children, but I can't even let her know. I'm not going to let her know because I have to protect mine first. But still, you feel shitty about it. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's like, oh, I'm just going to focus on protecting myself and screw everybody else. It's like, no, I'm going to say screw everybody else, but still have that guilt and a shame attached to it. And that carries on with it too. Right. And I do want to say, and Leah, you kind of more than alluded, I mean, you said it, but I want to just bring it back to some attention for a little bit. I want it to be a little bit of airtime, because I think it's important for us to recognize this as we move kind of into that problem solving mode, right? And you talked about how I don't think it'll ever go away, right, in this current state. And I agree with you. But part of that I really think it's important for other women to hear, right? Because we're sitting here and we're getting along and we're talking about difficult things, and we all come from different parts of the country and now world, right? Leah's in Bali, and we all look different, and we're different ages, and we've got different situations. And it's like, oh wow, like, okay, they can talk about this because they don't feel those things or they don't deal with those things. And it's like, let's be very clear. Bumping up against judgment and comparison, and I'll just speak for myself, still happens on the daily. Not feeling
Daily grind.
safe, right? Not feeling safe to be vulnerable and to be intimate in expression with other women. Still, I mean, had a situation just in the last couple of weeks, right? Where it was, because I felt uncomfortable, I didn't feel safe feeling vulnerable. I was so busy judging myself that it came out in negative ways with other women, that I was interacting with. And that's a huge part of this. So what I don't want is for women to sit here and be like, oh, like they've figured it out. Well,
Yeah.
we figured out some of it, right? Like we figured out enough because we've built this and we're creating this and we're moving into this, but we haven't. And I think that that's really important to know. Like sometimes we're really fucking judgy. And sometimes, and again, I'll speak for myself, right? Like I do struggle with comparison. And I justify that comparison for why I can't have or do or be all of the things that I desire. It becomes a really beautiful, right? Ugly cop out for why I'm not living in full alignment and why I'm not experiencing that next level of wealth in every area of my life, right? Because I do fall into that trap of comparison. I do fall into the trap of judgment because it feels more comfortable and safe, even though I'm disgusted by it. It's the known, right? And so it's something that I think we all continuously bump up against, and to recognize that just as there's layers that created it, just like there's layers of clearing it or understanding it or healing it and moving through it, like we can sit here and have these conversations and still be like, you know what? I struggle with this. And
Oh,
to be safe enough to
absolutely.
say that, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Because let's talk about me not looking like what most coaches out there look like. And the struggle that sometimes presents itself when I'm putting my work out there. And, you know, we've had Leah recently posted about imitation being the finest form of flattery and whatever. And seeing what I've been putting out there, what's correct, what I know that I know that I know, and watching people who look like what other people want people to look like, clearly, co-opting. And from the outside looking in, I'll say this, because I've also come to this place where all money ain't good money. And if you're not getting it in integrity, it'll leave as fast as it comes, okay? But you know, then I have to get back in alignment for me when I'm watching people take my work, repackage it, and look, and put some blonde hair and some blue eyes on it. And all of a sudden, you know, oh, I'm making this money, I'm making this impact. And I know that they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. I got to check me because I can't worry about.
That's right.
Again, if you are not in integrity, I can't be worried about what you're doing. I have to hold my own. I have to stand in my power. I have to stand in my correctness. And it's not always easy because we all see it. And then you want to be on somebody's post like, bitch, what are you doing? You teach us something you don't even know anything about. You are not I feel it. It happens. And for me, like that work keeps coming back to, and I've worked with a ton of coaches. What I have found personally for me is I resonate more with someone who's had a little more life experience. Number one, let's start with the fact that I'm the matriarch of the panel right now. I get it. I'm good. I mean, I know I don't look that old, but I am. I enjoy that. But if you are 25 and have never had children and have there's just a place for me where, depending on what I'm learning, I'm gonna need you to resonate with me on some other life experiences. That's for me. I know what's correct for me. Working with women who are younger than me, but have owned businesses. Like I owned a brick and mortar business and I worked with a coach that owned a brick and mortar business. Fantastic experience, but I knew that I needed someone who could understand the ins and outs of what I was working through. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But again, I'm sitting back. Let me tell you, sometimes mad. Like, do people not hear me? Am I not saying this? I said this last year. I said this the year before. I'm reposting old posts. I've been saying this for 5 years.
I totally resonate with that.
I mean, look, it's like, something hilarious. I mean, not hilarious, but also hilarious, given that like you're literally getting on this live stream today, is that I posted the video of the 4 of us, or the 3 of you, actually. I wasn't in it, but it was the video of the 3 of you. Somebody reported it for intellectual property infringement. Yeah. Instagram. Somebody reported my shit as intellectual property infringement. And I was like, that's interesting. I don't know how somebody can report me for my own intellectual property, but like, this is the thing, right? The jealousy, it does exist. It's in my field right now. Like, there are people, it's just like, it's so funny. Like, people that have just literally changed their entire brand to look like mine. Unbeknownst to them, I'm in the works of a new brand. So they're going to be sadly disappointed as soon as I shift all
How we
my
do it.
But look, like, it's not to say that, like, I don't get annoyed when I wake up in the morning and have like 7 messages from girlfriends being like, did you see this? Which prompted my post the other day that was like, I know. Imitation's the finest form of flattery. And also that shit's just annoying sometimes, right? Like, that is the reality. Like, I'm a human being. Like, I worked really fucking hard to build my brand, and it does kind of suck when somebody just rips it off or goes and like, takes my words verbatim and someone signed up for Ouroboros once and literally like took the program and fucking repackaged it and sold it as their own while they were in the container. So, I mean, like, this stuff happens and it sucks. And, like, yes, we still have emotions about it, but I think, so no, we have not figured it out. I think the purpose of this is to start talking about it, because I don't think we can even begin to have the remembrance if we're not having the conversations. So
yeah, if we're not shining the light on it, we're never going to get there.
Well, and
Exactly.
I think it's important to know, is it the goal to not ever feel the feelings, or is it the goal to feel the feelings and to know how to move away from that and not give our power over and hook into somebody else, but to say, oh, thank you for that experience. It's time for me to up level. It's time for me to let go of that brand. Damn it. I was so comfortable here. Okay. Game fucking on. What do I need to do? What's the next level? There's such a big difference there than ruminating over the bitch who stole whatever.
Or the other
Absolutely.
conversation, Leah, that you brought up that I thought was really good and it's been maybe 2 weeks. We need to be sharing each other. When you have people in your circle and what they're doing is good, and like, it is not taking anything from me at all, ever, to share, promote, encourage people to work with all of these people that I have worked with, because look, I can't be all of those things. I'm not even trying to be, not even interested. Let me do what I do. But if what you need is some wealth work, I'm gonna tell you where you need to go. Okay. You need some ERC. Well, I'm gonna send you to Carrie, because see, Leah is, she out there creating ERC practitioners. She is not spending her time just taking 25,000 people through it. She is creating an army of women practitioners, let's say, because there could be some men, to be out there servicing the world. I get it. Like, you need to learn about some love. Let me send you to Jody, girl. Let me tell you about Jody. Let me tell you what she can do for you. And we need to stop being scared that sharing what someone else we know, like, and trust is doing, because we think, look, it's not gonna mess up my bag. My bag is my bag. I can share everything that everyone's doing that I love, that resonates, and it's not gonna hurt me.
Right.
I want to speak to that, because I think part of why we don't is why we fucking do Ouroboros in the first place, right? But it's the scarcity and the lack. It's not that we don't actually want to support the other people, but what happens is, I think we get worried that, oh, if I tell this client that they should go work with Alicia, then they're going to give their money to Alicia and not to me for
Not
the
me.
thing that they could be coming to me for, right? So as a result of that, I think especially in the online space, like there's so much fucking lack and I mean, everyone's a money coach also, but there's all this lack and scarcity, right? Like there's so much lack and scarcity. And it's like, we all know, I mean, not currently, but there have been times in my life when I've been in like 7 or 8 programs. Like there's no such thing as people won't sign up for multiple things at a time. Like it just doesn't exist. But we talk ourselves into believing that, like, and then it triggers our worthiness and our deserving. It's just like, oh, well, you know, I really want them to invest with me, or I really want them to keep working with me. So if I go refer them to Alicia and she charges them $3,000 to do a program with her, like, are they still going to come back and do, you know, are they going to do Ouroboros? Are they going to do Phoenix if I send, you know? And so it's like, that's the other piece, you know, and I think the great thing about it, yeah, I'm really good at it, but I've unpacked a lot of that shit, but I'm also in a place financially where I don't have to worry about that. And so, you know, and for me, like, I love supporting other coaches and I love supporting other people, especially people that have changed my life. And so I will always do that. But how do you, you know, I mean, obviously my thing's going to say, I'm going to say, come do Ouroboros and unpack the shit. But like, how do people move through that when they're not, because I'm just literally trying to think back to like, I've always been a connector and a networker. So it's something I've always done. Like that's just part of my makeup and who I am. But like, how do we encourage people to do that when they're bumping up against some of that shit that comes up around like scarcity and lack? And
so
and I think there's another, sorry. I just want to say one quick thing that I want to get to the actual solution, because I think that there's something else too, right? Like there's the scarcity of the money, right? That's a very real thing, the scarcity and the lack around money. But I also think that there's this other component where it's like, well, if I'm promoting somebody else as them being so great, somehow the message is that they're so great and I'm not. Right. So just not on the financial side, but also on like the emotional and the validating, or whatever word you want to call it, right? Where it's like, well, if I'm saying how amazing these people are and they're so great and they're so amazing, they're so wonderful, where does that leave me? Right. And so it's like, I can't say, who was it? Not one of us, but somebody I saw recently was like, oh, I would never talk about how great somebody else is because it doesn't serve me, right? To talk about how great other people are because I'm the greatest. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, that's part of this perpetuating the problem. It's like, you can be the greatest version of you. That doesn't mean that there's other women who aren't great that need to be celebrated for their distinctions and their differences and their gifts and their skills and talents. But it's a very real piece of this, as well as that money part, you know? And it's like, I can say how amazing Alicia is and know that I'm amazing too, in a different way that's not better or worse than the way she is. And that seems very basic, right? Like that seems very like logic 101, but I'm seeing it all over the online space with grown ass women all day, every day. And, you know, let's be very clear. I've been very quiet on this call. One, none of my kids, but two, like I am hyper aware, right? Like I am the youngest here, right? I am the whitest here, right? I do have the blonde hair and the blue eyes, right? And I know that there's a lot for me to listen and to learn and to contribute to the conversation by being a listener. Sometimes the best way to participate in the conversation is to listen. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that this has been phenomenal. I know, Jody, you were going to say something, you know, before we move on. So please share the thing.
Yeah, I was going to share a recent experience because I became an affiliate for Ouroboros, and I haven't even taken Ouroboros yet. And so as I was thinking about it, all the feelings came up of like, why am I resisting this? Like, what really is going on here? Is it because I don't know the program or I don't believe in the program? Well, you already paid for the program, Jody. So what is it? It's obviously not a belief in the program. It's not that it's not this or it's not that. And what it came down to is, what am I committed to? What am I committed to? Am I committed to plugging into fear, scarcity, and lack? Or am I committed to plugging into freedom and wealth? And that was the shift for me. Because if I stay true to that, then I become enslaved. I'm literally doing the very thing that I'm here to break. And I'm here to break and free the freaking people. So I can't keep my people in this little bubble of me, safe in my own little prison, if I'm here to actually free the people. So now the people who have signed up from me are actually current clients. It's like when we open up their doors, now they see opportunity for more. And now we create that growth. They were never mine. That's not my freaking business. My business is to share the wealth. That's it.
Well, I mean, and that's an interesting thing, right? Like what you just said of, because we're like, it's my community, it's my community, it's my, no, they're fucking people. I mean, this is the thing again, where it's just like the perpetuation of slavery is so fucking crazy. It's like, I own my online community. Like, how dare you come in and like, what? No, like, you know, so I think that's a powerful statement.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I just get mad when people don't listen to me. Like when I'm like, go have your thing do your thing with Alicia. And then later they're like, I went to this person, and I'm like, what did I tell you?
You know what? It's interesting. And I've had conversations with people, right? Because fundamentally, like with human design, fundamentally, it's learning to trust your innate decision-making. I mean, at the base level, you peel everything back. And once you start picking the shit that's right for you, you're making better choices. If you don't know if something's right for you, talk to me about how to make the right decision. And so I recently had a client, and I said, I know it sounds kind of self-serving, and I don't mean it that way, but if everybody would just work with me first, figure out how to make decisions, like we'd fix all of this, because you'd know what was correct. Because Ouroboros 2, 3, 4, and 5 are correct for me, right? Like it's not about anything other than me knowing what I need to be doing, who I need to be working with, knowing what that feels like for me. And again, like we said, getting past worrying about these people, right? Like I talk about, and I invite people to share in my community who I like, respect, and trust. I don't let strangers share. Like I need to know you. I need to know you have some integrity. I need to know you know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Because I take it personally, right? Mm-hmm. When I'm sharing things with people, that if you trust me, you should trust that I'm going to share something that I've done some level of vetting, right? Mm-hmm. But aside from that, no, you need an Akashic Records reading? I got some people I can send you to. Mm-hmm. This isn't hard. Mm-hmm. I'm not sitting up trying to learn how to read some Akashic Records. I don't got time. I don't have time for that.
Again, it goes back to intimacy, though. It's the full circle of intimacy. If we're unable to into be and see, then we're not going to get to that truth. That we don't have to. I have a book here on Akashic Records. That we don't have to learn it all and know it all and do it all. Like you get to do that.
Very true. There's such a level of safety and trust in knowing who you are that allows you to give yourself permission to celebrate who everybody else is, right? Yeah. I don't think it's possible to celebrate somebody else if you can't celebrate yourself and feel safe and trust yourself.
Right.
That's
Know
it.
your
You
magic.
just said it. Like, it's what you just said. That's it, right? Like, I feel safe. It's safe for me to share other people because I have certainty in who I am.
Yep.
Across multiple timelines, paradigms, dimensions, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm the fucking wealth witch. Like, I've been given my mission on this planet. I know what it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's not human design. So it's like, now, am I obsessed with human design? Do I love human design when I'm alone in my hours at night, when after I've done all my work for the day, like, want to know what I'm doing most of the time? It's geeking out on astrology and human design shit, right? Like,
Exactly.
that's what I'm
Yep.
studying. And so I know enough to make me a little bit dangerous. And I know a lot about my own personal experiment. But then when people are like, oh, can you teach me this? I'm like, nope, but I know someone that can.
Right. I'm over here, look, journaling like a boss witch. You want to know how to journal? I can send you somewhere. Let her teach you. I don't have time for that.
Yep.
Like, really, when
Yeah.
everyone brings it's symbiotic, right?
You know what's crazy is, like, here's the woman thing again, right? Every time I'm like, I need to, well, Gian, you can probably get that course because didn't you earn $444 in Leah Loot, but because you were on the whole 26-hour Ouroboros phenomenon event? I'm pretty
Like
sure
a
you got
boss.
Leah Loot, that if you want the Boss Witch journaling course, you could just have it right now with your Leah Loot. Sorry, we had a little comment in the comment section
No,
over there about the
absolutely.
journaling course.
Get on it. Get on it.
But listen, this is what I was going to say. This is how hard it is to support other women, because I will straight up be like, people will be like, who should I see for human design? And I'll be like, Alicia Baker. And then I'm like, she's my cousin. And I feel like I have to say she's my cousin. And then I have to go on to justify that I'm not referring them because she's my cousin, that I'm referring them because I think she's the most brilliant human design person out there. And then I feel like I have to share my personal story about how she helped me. And then I have to be like, and I pay her. Like, I pay her for shit. And then I have to be like, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm like, yeah, I was in Ouroboros 2 and 3 and 4, and I paid the same money everybody else paid. Like, yeah, like 100%. Like, you have to justify. And I paid the same money.
Sorry,
Okay.
that was me, because I was just going on Facebook to see if there's any comments too. So my bad. Keep going, Alicia, girl.
Yeah, no, but you're correct. You're 100% right.
Because it's like, they don't, like, it's that trust thing. Like, we're like, oh, they're not going to trust me. Oh, but if I refer them and I'm like, go to see Alicia, then they're going to be like, oh, that's her cousin. That's why she's referring. And I'm like, it's actually not. I have cousins that do stuff that I don't refer people to, because I don't think they're good at what they do. But I'm like, hopefully none of them are going to watch. Now, every cousin of mine is going to be watching, like, that bitch.
Right? Like, start promoting my
Girl.
shit.
Yeah,
Oh
let's
my
list the
God.
mutuals and see what happens.
Right? I cannot.
So, you know what I'm
cannot.
saying though? It's like, there's so many layers to this. There's so many layers to the distrust of each other, to the division, to the manipulation, to the, yeah. And so it's just like, honestly, like, I have to go through all of that every single time I refer someone to Alicia. So now I'm like, you know what? It's almost easier to not, except for I actually believe in what she does. So I have to, right? But it's like, you can see how people would just be like, oh, fuck it. Like, that's too much. That's too much effort. It's too much effort. And maybe you feel that way. I mean, I had a call, somebody reached out to me the other day about PR, and they were like, yeah. And like, a spiral practitioner that I knew from a long time ago. And they're like, oh, I've been seeing all your PR and it's so amazing. And who are you using? And, you know, so I referred them to my PR agency. And like, again, even in that, it's like, I'm like, yeah, they're great, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm feeling like, I'm like, well, and through the relationship, like, I've become really good friends with Rhonda. Like, I feel like I have to justify it again, right? Like, to be like, you know, you're going to find out that I'm friends with her down the road. And so then are you going to be like, or are you telling me the truth? It's just like, we have this deep distrust of each other and this need to justify, and our need to justify creates creates judgment, like our need to justify, our need to, you know, there's just literally, we'd probably be here for like 7 hours. There's a lot.
Minimum 7 days, 7 months. I mean, let's be clear, right? Because there's so many other layers and angles we can look at it. And one thing I want to bring up that came up when Alicia was talking, and you know, when we're talking about business and referring other women and celebrating other women and being, you know, trusting in ourselves enough and feeling safe enough in ourselves to get excited about celebrating somebody else and not begrudgingly talking about somebody else or not justifying talking with somebody else, right? It's like, even from we're all entrepreneurs on this panel, and I'm sure a lot of people watching are like, even from an entrepreneurial standpoint, right? We're always taught, at least I was taught, business 101, fake it till you make it, right? If you don't know how to do it, say yes and learn it anyway, right? You never refer out business. Never, right? Like, oh, I can do that. Yep, I can do that. Yep, I can do that. And it's like, then people start, you know, not trusting you because magically you can do everything. You don't trust yourself because you know you're full of shit and you can't do everything. And then it's like the people that do know like something different, like human design, let's say I'm like, yeah, I can read a human design chart. I mean, I would never, but let's just say I did, right? And then it's like, now there's a discord between Alicia and I because she actually knows what the fuck she's talking about. And I'm trying to fake it over here because I'm too scared to lose business, right? That I can't.
Well, girl, you know, you're going to be doing fine if you start by running the right chart, but I didn't say that out loud.
Throwing shade.
I was telling someone about that the other day. I don't know who it was, but I was like, Carrie was operating off the wrong chart for like a year.
For years.
Yeah, and I think we were talking about Ouroboros. That's what it was. Are you a 5'1" or a 6'2"?
I'm in real life a 5'1". I lived a lie for 3 years of a 6'2". Yeah. Shook me up. Shook me. Yeah, because I had worked with somebody else. Isn't
it kind of creepy that all of the two Ouroboros practitioners, or two wealth alchemy practitioners, and the facilitator and the program are all 5'1"s, Alicia?
No.
5'1".
No.
That's weird.
No. It is not at all.
Generator, man, generator, and projector. The projector is leading the thing. All the little 5'1" babies are just doing the things in the world.
No, not at all. But yeah, Carrie, as long as you pull the right chart, you'll be okay telling somebody a little something.
I mean, it was, my whole life changed. I told Alicia she was wrong. I straight up was like, you're wrong. She was like, no, I'm not. I'm like, for years I've been going off this other chart. Thank you. She was like, maybe you should check the time that you were actually born and get it right this time. I was like, my whole life just makes sense now. It just makes sense. But see,
Soraya got to Bali and she was a 5'1" for like, I don't know, a month or two. And then she actually too. So you guys just swapped.
We just need a little, Soraya and I just need a little swappy swap, right? But this is the thing. This is what we're talking about, where we can be open and we can be honest and we can make mistakes and we can call each other out and we can laugh about it and we can grow deeper. You know what I mean? Like, there's this group of women, because I didn't have female friends up until like a couple of years ago. And even then I was like, I know I'm supposed to do this because it's like what I feel called to do, right? But I'm like, not really buying in. I'm just following the path that I feel inside, but I'm not excited about it. But now, right, there's so much space to create, and we're able to create because we are able to know ourselves on a deeper level, right? We are able to trust ourselves on our deeper level, which means we're able to trust each other on a more deeper level. It means that we have that community to call each other out and give each other the space to process things when we need to, and that space to move away, and that space to come back, and those difficult conversations that, by the way, are never fun for anybody. So if you magically think like, oh, we've got this girl gang and gang, and we can, have these, no, they're still uncomfortable, but there's been enough trust built, there's been enough safety built that even when we have those reactionary responses, we can still come back. And we can say, this sucks and I don't like how this feels, but I'm going to show up. Whereas I can't tell you another time in my life where I've been able to show up. after that,
I
something like
think,
that.
Carrie, like, we're a really good example of this, right? Because we're very different. Like, you and I are very different, and we have communication issues. Like,
All the time.
in our personality, in our makeups, we have communication issues. And but instead of just doing the thing where we've been like, where it would have been like, I mean, old me, like before human design me, before peyote me, before
She's like, I needed all the plant medicine to get with this bitch.
before
but-
all the things, before, you know, before before emotional resonance clearing, before the spiral, like that me would have been like, fuck that bitch, I'm never talking to her again. The first sign of like that communication rub or that communication thing. And it's like, now we get to just have these conversations where it's like, I think we both now, we've had enough of it, and we both stuck with it long enough that it's like, we both realize our blind spots.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, like, a beautiful friendship has been built, and it's not an easy one. Like, it continues to be like, we continue to learn lessons from each other over and over and over.
Oh, you mean that friction that's sometimes meant for you?
Yes, that.
That's
And then
us. Yeah.
you're just projecting onto each other, our 5 lines.
All day. Yep. Exactly.
Onto each other.
I have
There's a
two
really good
5-1
question. Oh, go ahead.
I have 2 5-1 babies.
I do too.
You do? You have 2
Mhm.
5-1?
I have a 5-1 baby also.
I have 2 5-1s, a 4-6, and a 3-5.
I have a 6-2.
I have a 4-6.
I have a little Alicia.
I love him. I love him.
I'm gonna have a little 5-1 generator. Okay, this is a great question, and I'm gonna answer it first
This is
because
a
I
really
love
good
it.
question,
So
Kristen.
Kristen asked, question for you all: how do you delay, or I think it's deal. How do you deal with the negative, judgmental, and catty comments people make on your public posts and places? Well, let me just tell you something. People don't do that shit to me because they don't want the
The
response.
smoke.
Yeah.
They don't want that smoke.
No. And literally, it really never happened to me much, but probably in my first year in business, I was like, I am not fucking available for this bullshit. Like, and so there would be a couple of times where people would try to come at me or would say stuff, and I immediately would be there. Like, nope. Like, and the thing that my husband says that's super funny, because at the beginning he was just like, you don't want to create an echo chamber. Like, you know, you don't want to create an echo chamber. And I was always like, why? Like, my message is here to serve and land with the people that it lands with. Like, I'm not here to debate my message.
Yeah.
I'm not here to debate the divine guidance that I'm given to put a message into the world. That's not the purpose of why I'm here on this planet. Now, does that mean I'm not open to alternate viewpoints or differences of opinion or ways people see things? Absolutely not. I'm super open to that kind of conversation. But as far as like negative, judgmental, and catty, like, I'm fucking not here for it. So I, in our early business, was quick to block people.
Okay,
You know
that's
what
what I was gonna say. Like, you come wrong, and I will block a bitch. Click, I'm done. Like, if you want to come in and say, hey, I don't see this. If you want to be respectful and have that dialogue, and it's gonna go somewhere where we don't have to. Nobody walks away necessarily with a changed mind, but with an expanded perspective on how each other feels. That's fine. But you're not going to come over here and act a fool.
No, and I'm just not
No.
interested in like the virtue signaling on Facebook. Like, I'm not here for it. I don't have time for it. And so it just doesn't happen on my page. I'm like, if you have a difference of opinion with something and you want to talk to me about something, or you're concerned about something that I say, fucking send me a PM. Like, send me a private message, be respectful, ask me a question. Let's have a dialogue. I'm always open to chat and have conversation like that if I'm approached the right way. But if it's virtue signaling, if it's victim mentality, if it's negative, if it's judgmental, or if
Shaming,
it's shaming, if it's shaming of somebody else on my stuff, I'm like, nope, I'm not here for it.
I actually, last month, I don't know, I have not stayed home. So the last time I was in Texas, whatever time that was, I was traveling with a friend of mine, friend since college, good friend. And at some point in time, and I was working through leading into the pleasure principle. And she's like, and she has chosen to no longer be on Facebook. She's only Instagram. She doesn't want to be on, which fine. But her mother said something to her about what I was posting. And I was like, look here, little old lady. I didn't even say anything. I just went in and deleted her mom. And I was like, you know what? I don't have time for this. Little old lady. And there are more issues with that particular relationship, especially when we talk generational and we're talking somebody who's, in their 70s and has a very different perspective on a whole lot of life. Right. But I don't have time for that. Another thing, let's talk about some practices though. One of my practices is that when I am live, there's always a reflective surface behind me. Because my intention is to send back to you 10 times what you send to me. So if you're sending me love, boo, you getting it back 10 times. But if that's not what you're sending, that's not what you're getting. Like, I don't have time to play with people.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's important to know also like how serious I am about this, because really the only person that was writing catty, messed up shit on my posts was my mother.
Yeah.
And she's no longer on my social media. Like that is how, and I think that certainty and assuredness in my message and in my belief of the message that I'm delivering, it's like not even my mother gets to derail that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a lot of family that actually I'm not connected to on Facebook, because of various comments and things that they've said and posted, because they're still living in the matrix and they don't want to believe that there's another way of living life, which is fine. And that's fine for them. And they can go do that on their page. But my space, my platform, my world is not available for that.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't it interesting? This is probably a whole other panel as well, right? Because we're nearing the end of our time today. We've got a few things to wrap up with, but isn't it interesting? And Jody, I'm not sure about your experience, but now I know, from Leah and Alicia, and certainly from my own experience, that the people that have been the most negative or talkative or just unnecessarily and misaligned with my message was also family, right? So it's like the women, right? So the women that are closest to us that want the best, right? That want the best for us, right? And there's always this reason, oh, I'm trying to protect you, or oh, I want to keep you safe, or oh, I don't want people to come for you. You are coming for me. You're coming for me to protect me from other people coming from me. Like that doesn't make, right? But that's the level that this is at, right? I have personally never had someone come for me, especially online with business and things like that didn't know me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like that wasn't in like my family, for example. Now, I mean, I've had plenty of women come for me that didn't know me, and I was like, feel free to try, but not in that same way. So it's just a really interesting observation, I think, for all of us, that it's the women that are closest to us that want the best for us that are actually perpetuating.
An interesting chain of events, though. This is interesting for me to just think about, because I am the matriarch. There is nobody to come for me. Not in that same, I mean,
right.
Maybe younger than me, and I don't, but literally my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, I'm it. And I'm running it. I'm fully embodied. It was a watershed moment for me to realize where I was in my family. You know what I mean? And this is, mom's side versus dad's side, but to be, I'm the one. I'm the oldest. You can't come for me. You can't come for me if I don't send for you.
Yeah. I've not had any personal comments done on my posts. Nothing that anybody that I know. It's always been people that I don't know or who don't know me. Like when I used to do Facebook ads, there would always be somebody, like I had a webinar thing at one point and I cuss. It's who I am. If you don't like shit and you don't like fuck, then you're probably not going to want to listen to me. And she said, you know, things like you're ungodly. And if you would just, you know, not say those words, then I could listen to you. And it's like, what are you going to pay attention to? Are you still going to allow yourself to be you? Or are you going to, you know, give them the attention, try to convince them, try to defend yourself and justify anything? No, I'm not justifying. I'm not convincing unless you're having a conversation with me and you want to know my perspective. But just recently, I came into publicity with my childhood sexual abuse, and I made a post, and I was driven by a video that I saw of a man who is the authority in the United States right now that put me over the edge. It was like, enough is freaking enough. Our children are sex slaves. I want to say something. And what I teach my clients is that, and what happens all the time is energetically, these people that are sort of karmically tied to that come out of the woodwork, out of the closet. And I had posted the day before and I already had the post done. And the mother of my friend, the wife of the man who created his act on me, commented on my post. And so it was this time where I was like, oh, are you still going to go through with it? Are you still going to say the thing that is coming from your heart? Or are you going to go back into, I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to say something that might hurt someone else. It's not my business to say something, you know, all of the things. And then it was like, no, it's got to come out. So there was only one person, and it only takes one person to throw you off of your game if you let it. One person out of all of these others that are throwing you love. I got texts, I got phone calls, I got messages, comments on my post, but it only takes this one, right? And this woman,
and it's not just one person, it's one woman.
One woman, yes. And she made a comment, and it's always this like nice, I'm gonna give you my nice face and then I'm just gonna stab you. And it was like
people that say, with all due respect.
Yeah.
No offense, but right.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I'm not judging you. And
she said, I'm sorry this happened to you. It happens to a lot of us. And I don't appreciate you posting, because I posted the video that I saw of this man that's in authority. I posted the video of what I saw, and I asked people to just feel into your body. I didn't even show the face of this guy. I just said, feel into your body for the truth. And she posted something about a whole separate video, because there's lots of them, a whole separate video that had nothing to do with what I posted. And then I was like, okay, how do you want to handle this right now? Do you want to go into defense mode? Do you want to go into justification? Do you want to respond to this person? Where are you going to put your energy? And people were already commenting to her, like justifying for me and defending for me. And I was like, you know what? You posting that is causing them to stop and flag my post that more people can see, because you've damaged it. You've now polluted it with that. So block. Nope, you don't get to be on my space. But it's really about just coming back into yourself and recognizing what is the trigger here, and how can I stay in activation? How can I stay in my own power without convincing, without justification, without proving energy? There's nothing to prove here. That will speak the truth.
Absolutely. And there's this fine line, and obviously, again, this is probably another panel because we're going to wrap up. And I know Leah's got some final words for us because this time has flown by. But you know, there is a difference too, right? One of the things we've been taught is that if you create a healthy boundary, right, now you're judgmental, or now you're bitchy, or now there's something, you know, there's a problem. Yep, you already know, right, Alicia? Like that, a healthy boundary equates to the bad girl, right? A good girl is super codependent, although that's not directly said, right? A good girl, right, doesn't have healthy boundaries. A good girl, right? And so then there is always just the perpetuation of everything we've been talking about today. So I really want people to understand that while this is an issue that is certainly not going to be solved in a 2-hour talk or a 2-month or 2-year talk by any means of imagination, there are certain things that I'm hoping people hear today, right? There's certain things I'm hoping women hear today. One is that this is not easy. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is not easy to cultivate these conversations, to cultivate these relationships, because it requires us to cultivate a different knowing and trusting and safety within ourselves first.
Mm-hmm.
That creating healthy boundaries does not make you a horrible or somebody who's not in alignment with wealth for everybody, right? And that there's not opportunity for everyone. That it is safe. There is enough to celebrate and to promote, you know, the people, the women that you do believe in, that there's always enough, that any decision that you make out of fear or scarcity or lack, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in business, whether it's in promotions, is completely unnecessary. Like, you do not need to hold on to that. You can give yourself permission to step into this belief that there's more than enough for everybody, right? And you get to step into this belief that by forming these communities, by forming these relationships, by letting go of the comparison and judgment as much as we are able to, right? A year from now, we are going to, the 4 of us ladies are going to be having even a different or less experience of comparison and judgment than we do now, than we certainly did from, 5 years ago, right? So it is an ongoing process. And it is an opportunity for us to celebrate that. And, as Alicia comes in, like, bump up against it in a way that serves us. And to know that it's challenging, but it's possible to continue doing that. And, this conversation hopefully left you with actually a lot of questions. Questions for yourself, questions for the people you surround yourself with, questions with your own conversations and thoughts and beliefs about yourself first, and then other women. And, that you're asking yourself, what can I do today to honor myself in order to recultivate these relationships and recultivate these experiences, and to experience wealth on a whole different level that comes within these communities of women.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Yeah, it's like this one is really an interesting one, because at some level, like, we're all still going through it. I don't have an answer. Like, I don't have a resolution to this conversation. I just know it's a conversation that needs to be had, because I know the power of what happens when women come together in collaboration. I mean, look, like, I just, came together with these 22 incredible authors, 21 other incredible co-authors on this book, Women Gone Wild. We hit bestseller in 9 different categories. It looks like we're probably going to take another 4 to 5 categories. Like, in a book where do you know how freaking hard it is to create a book with 22 women?
Right.
Like, but when we come together and we support each other, magic happens. And when we come together and we support each other, and we're willing to have these kinds of conversations, like, we do deconstruct this programming and this conditioning, and life does get better for everyone, for the entire collective. And so, for me, this topic was just about, like, we need to start having these conversations. We need to start really committing to collaboration and to, like, that's what this whole series is about. We need to start committing to having the hard conversations, because that's how we grow and that's how we expand. And I was just thinking, Alicia, like, I think it would be so amazing, because I love what you were talking about knowing yourself. I think that we really should do a panel on, like, self-awareness, and have, like, an astrologer, a human design. We'll do some, like, self-mastery, like 5-element theory stuff. And, like, because that's something, those are tools that people need to know. They need, like,
how did I get here to this place where I'm able to be like, hey, we need to facilitate these panels? Well, I started getting to know myself really, really well. And I started taking my own inventory, and I started calling myself on my bullshit, right? Like that's how I got to this place. And so I think that's a really important panel that we should do soon.
Yeah.
But I do want to end this by saying that, you know, one of the ways to begin to really deconstruct this programming and conditioning is to step into an emotional clearing container. And Ouroboros is launching currently, and we are starting on September 2nd. And all of these beautiful ladies will be in that container. And we will all be tapping into deeper levels of expansion around our own worthiness and our own deserving, and stepping into higher states of worthiness and deserving, and expanding our ability to acquire and accumulate wealth in all areas of our lives. And Carrie and I will be in facilitator positions, and Jody will be going through her first round, and Alicia will be coming back as like, I don't know, 100-time alumni or something like that. But you know, like this is the work, and this is the work that is so important to do right now, because when we just live in states of fear and scarcity and lack, we can't move out of these places. And no matter how much we want to shift, when we have emotional conditioning and programming that's keeping us stuck and stagnant, it's like just continuing to ram our head against the wall, right? And it's the beauty of collaboration too, right? Because I wouldn't be here without my study of human design that I did with Alicia, and Alicia wouldn't be where she was without her study of, without her going through Ouroboros with me, you know what I mean? And so it's like when we actually, and the relationships that are built inside the container are mind-blowing. So Carrie and Alicia.
Absolutely.
Relationship formed in Ouroboros, right? Like the relationships in the container will change your life. You will create lifelong friends. And this is the type of community that it is a non-negotiable for me. We foster communities of support amongst women. And it is the thing that I'm the proudest of, that I get commended for and that I get recognized for, is the support inside my communities, the feminine support inside my communities. And I think that's always quite fascinating, because it's literally because I hold it with this like very no nonsense masculine, like don't fuck around. Like we're supportive of each other in here, damn it, energy. But there's a really beautiful support system. So we would love for you to join us. I don't know if we've even put links for the program in the group yet. So we definitely need to do that if we haven't already, for Ouroboros in the Women on Wealth panel series. But the other thing is reach out and connect with the panelists that you're seeing on these panels. Connect with them on social media, follow them, see what they're doing, expand your personal audience. And you know, that's the thing that I think I can recommend the most from this panel series. So Friday is going to be a goodie. We've got spiritual bypassing, when self-help. Wait, what is it? Spiritual bypassing.
I'm like, let me get back to you on that. Hold on. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't have the whole thing.
I was looking for. I was looking at the
clever. When self-help and it's spiritual bypassing, when self-help and self-love become self-sabotage. That's Friday.
That one.
So we're going to have some really interesting conversations there. And then on the 25th, which is our next one after that, we are going to be having a conversation about gender roles, and how, and this whole masculine feminine dynamic, and how our assigned gender roles with money keep us broke, basically.
Yes.
So we've got some good shit coming. And then we're going to have this panel with Alicia that we haven't named yet, but it's going to be something about human potential and self-expansion and learning to know yourself. Call yourself on your own shit first. Maybe it should be called something like that. So anyway, thank you for spending these couple of hours with us. Again, it was amazing. It's blowing my mind how quickly these panels are going by. Like, it just feels like there's so many things to be said. If you have suggestions for topics that you would love to hear about, certainly panelists, if you guys have suggestions for topics that you guys want to talk about, let's share that in the group, because we really want to know what you want to hear from us. Yeah, I'm just really interested in keeping this dialogue going. And my intention is to have 1 or 2 of these a month. We'll have 2 more over the next week. And then my hope is that we have one every other week, that we're having one of these panel conversations every other week. But the other thing that I really want to do is start to build an incredible community of women inside this Women on Wealth Facebook group and community. So let's start having conversation and dialogue about these panels in there, and ask us questions and share things that are coming up for you after you've watched these panels in the Facebook group. So that's it.
Amazing.
Jody, Alicia, Carrie, thank you so much. Carrie, as always, an amazing job facilitating. Super nice for me, because I kind of get to just kick back and like answer questions and listen to all of the incredible dialogue that's happening. So we will see you Friday, same time as this one, 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Bali, 8 a.m. Eastern. I think that's it.
Amazing. Enjoy your day, your evening, your night. See you soon.
All right. Thanks, ladies. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Mwah.
Bye.